terrorists live in your country, but guess what? We're going to work with everybody else.
That's fine, because then they can fly. Right?
Well, you know what? Depends on the country. If you're talking to Belgium, then you're going to say Belgium, okay.
The whole
do what you want.
model of fight of the war on terror, the wall of war, whatever you want to call it now, is that you go find them. Knowing where they are, and if they're in their own little world and happy and doing their own thing by themselves, and we can watch them, that's not good enough anymore. That whole model is now not good enough. We could do that with the Soviet Union. We could do that with, well, shoot, part of the Soviet Union. Who? I don't know. Some of the imperial powers in Europe. I don't know. We could afford to do that before.
But what's the new model?
Now we can't. Now we have to go actively find them.
That's what you said that's what you said the model wasn't.
We have to actively go find them and capture or kill them.
But what was the previous model?
That we could not find them, but know where they are and just watch them and make sure they didn't cause any trouble. Now the model is, once you find them, you got to go get them.
Okay, but like
if
you have the cooperation of the countries?
It's a world offensive.
But that's exact. Okay, fine.
It's a world offensive.
I agree with that. And my point would be, I agree with it partially. My point would be, if you're gonna say I gotta find them and then go after them, then in order to go after them, you have to have the cooperation of the country that they're in. And if you've now squandered your political will, and all the rest of the world is like, we're not helping you.
This brings it back to my exact point. If a country says no, they're here, but I'm not going to do anything, or I'm going to work with them, or whatever, or you know what, I'm not going to work with you, and they leave me alone, I leave them alone. They can go run their terrorist camps, wherever. Okay, this is just a hypothetical, because you're going to deal with this. What do you do? Okay, the international community is now behind you. Maybe they're not. What do you do? You're president of the United States.
Those are big differences. The question, those are incredibly nuanced questions that depend on every single country and so first of all, I'll say one thing. If you have the cooperation of the world community, you're 100 times more you have a huge advantage there over your choices if you don't have the cooperation of the world community, which is Bush's mistake number one. He doesn't need world cooperation to defend the United States of America. Period. That's the kind of bravado bullshit that drives me crazy.
It's not bravado.
It is.
In what way is that bravado?
Because if you're going to say that, you have to go into countries wherever, you have to find Al-Qaeda and root them out wherever you want. Hold on. Yeah. If you're going to say that, and you're going to say, boom, we got to go in, and then at the next statement you're going to say, we don't need their cooperation to defend ourselves, then what are you going to do? Go into every country that you find Al-Qaeda, whether the government likes it or not? You're going to declare war on every country that has Al-Qaeda in it?
That means that the governments that don't recognize it as in their own self-interest to find Al-Qaeda, that you can do it for them.
So you're going to go and invade a sovereign nation to go after Al-Qaeda in a country that doesn't want you there?
I think you have to be prepared to do that.
Well, maybe if you do it once.
If the consequence is 9/11,
dude,
9/12,
you don't know what the consequences are. You never know what the consequences are.
You don't. But 9/11 changed everything. So it changed everything.
But hold on. Back to the main point here, which is if you have the cooperation of the country that you're talking about, you have more options. And the fact that Bush squandered 99% of that cooperation in the world, limited his options to going into Iraq or dealing with Afghanistan. He can't even go into southern Pakistan. He can't even go into southern Pakistan. If we had dealt with Pakistan in a different, more effective way, long before, we might be able to have the political will to go in and take them out where we know they are, where we know Osama bin Laden is. Why can't we go in there now? Why can't we help them out? I would argue because of the Bush administration's failures.
When you tie... It is an absolute mistake to tie national security issues to the goodwill of the world or the opinion of the world. In the specific case with Iraq, it is a mistake to go in under the guise of a coalition when certain veto-powering members of the United Nations Security Council had a vested interest in Saddam staying in power financially.
Okay.
Okay? So, when people like France and Russia and Germany don't support you, which is essentially what it comes down to, and then some of their, influential neighbors decide to jump on the bandwagon or whatever, I don't know how it actually fell out. But when they decide to not support you to invade Iraq because, oh, by the way, they're getting billions in money.
And oh, by the way, your evidence isn't all that great. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry to yell, and we shouldn't, but seriously, we're not talking about an open and shut case that they just said, no, we like our contracts with oil. That was not it was not that simple, man. It was this case that we made.
Certainly it wasn't that simple, but for them, I mean, view it from their perspective.
But if we had made the case that your national security interests are at risk here, France, you are actually at risk, and this isn't just our war of choice, which everyone believed it was, that we didn't have the evidence to go in.
The only reason they believe that is because we did make that case. That was the case that was represented to the United Nations Security Council since the Clinton administration, that Iraq was a threat and that something should be done.
The Clinton administration never advocated going in and taking out Saddam Hussein.
They didn't, but they had the plans to.
Well, sure, but everyone, if you gotta have contingency
you always
plans
have to have contingency plans.
That's not anything.
No,
the point is that we didn't make a good enough case to the world community for them to say, all right, you know what, the status quo has some value. In order to upset the status quo, you have to have better evidence than this.
What would have been done differently?
If what should have been done differently?
We're getting back to the Iraq War again, which is really what this all boils down to. It really does. It really does. But the point is that you end up in this endless loop if you don't eventually break out of that loop and do something. And in this case, invading Iraq was breaking out of this endless cycle, this endless loop. Now, 9/11, I think people forget this, but 9/11 changed everything about national security. It completely broke down every model that there was. Strategic Defense Initiative, shooting missiles out of the sky sent over from Russia, all that stuff is now, the model is destroyed. It's still there because there are still those threats, but now the model is that a rogue organization, a multinational organization, such as Al-Qaeda, a decentralized organization, such as Al-Qaeda, can, if they have the ability, detonate some sort of weapons of mass destruction device inside the continental United States.
And they can start from any country in the world.
That's the new model.
And they can start from
any
wherever.
country in the world.
And so you don't see the argument that you have to have cooperation of other countries
if they can attack us
against that?
If they can attack us from virtually anywhere, and from our strategic defense point of view, I need this country to do X, Y, or Z, and they're not going to do it, and the rest of the world doesn't support me going in and making them do X, Y, or Z, I'm sorry, but this is my security at risk. It's not yours. It's mine.
Right. So when you invade that other country, you've got more problems on your hands.
Look, the point remains.
How do you, unless you have a good relationship with these countries, how do you wiretap the Al-Qaeda's phones?